Garden. I'm Len Schroeder.
And I'm Julio Zamora.
Crocosmia is a unique perennial and a favorite of hummingbirds. We're going to tell you where you can plant it and how to grow it in our first segment.
Successful summer watering can make the difference in a brown or green thumb. We'll give you watering tips, how to take care for your summer containers, and planting in our second segment.
Are you thinking about installing a pond or water garden but don't know where to start? We're going to share with you the water gardening basics you should know during our third segment.
During our fourth segment, we're going to stay in the pond. Algae is one of the biggest problems facing most pond owners. We'll tell you what to do during our fourth segment.
What's bugging you? Spotted lanternfly. I had one hitchhiking on my car the other day. We're going to tell you what you can do to stop them now from becoming adults in the fall in our final segment.
So stay tuned, and we'll be right back in the garden right after these messages. Bloomers in the Garden is brought to you each week by Bloomers Home and Garden Center. Bloomers is an award-winning garden center just 20 minutes from Philadelphia. Bloomers has been providing expert advice turning brown thumbs green for over 30 years. At Bloomers, we want you to ask us every question, even if you think it's silly. We share information in a friendly, non-judgmental way that is meant to teach and spread the joy of gardening. Visit Bloomers Home and Garden Center in Washington Township, Gloucester County. For directions, go to bloomers.com, and we'll see you in the garden.
Hi, this is Len Schroeder from Bloomers in the Garden. Do you have a landscape, garden, or plant question? If so, call or text us using the Bloomers in the Garden hotline. Dial 609-685-1880. That's 609-685-1880. Don't be shy. We want to hear from you. Call or text us and let us know what problems you're facing. Let us know how we're doing. Call or text 609-685-1880. If we use your comment on the air, we'll send you a free Bloomers t-shirt. Call or text us at 609-685-1880. That's 609-685-1880. And we'll see you in the garden.
Fertilome's Triple Action contains 70% neem oil and 0.25% pyrethrins as a concentrate and ready to spray. It is an insecticide, fungicide, and miticide labeled to use on vegetables, fruits, nuts, herbs, spices, and ornamentals. This organic OMRI-listed product controls a wide variety of insect pests and diseases, including aphids, scale, spider mites, whiteflies, rust, leaf spot, and powdery mildew. This insecticide is an all-in-one bottle that will cure just about any problem you may run into throughout the year. Fertilome's Triple Action has been helping gardeners across the country for years. Best to apply in late evening and early morning hours. Mix 1 ounce, which is equivalent to 2 tablespoons in a gallon of water. The best part is Triple Action may be used up to the day of harvest. So the next time you are visiting your favorite garden center, ask for Fertilome's Triple Action and expect to have the best-looking plants in the neighborhood.
You're listening to Bloomers in the Garden Radio. Listen anytime through your favorite podcast provider or hear us on the radio each weekend. Every Saturday morning, Bloomers in the Garden Radio is heard in Philadelphia and throughout the whole Delaware Valley, first at 8 a.m. on Talk 860 WWDB and again at 9 a.m. on AM 800 WTMR. On Sunday at 8 a.m., we can be heard through the New York tri-state area on Classic Oldies, 1250 a.m. WMTR. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you in the garden.
Welcome, everybody, to Bloomers in the Garden. It's a great day here. Crocosmia is one of the flowers most prized by hummingbirds and gardeners alike.
It seems like every picture of a hummingbird, it's like,
it's right there.
You know, it's hovering at the flower.
Right.
It's like a cluster of flowers that come out, and you always see it in red, but it is available in orange and yellow. Quite frankly, I don't like the name because it's the red, but I like the red the best, and the name is Lucifer.
Lucifer, yeah.
It's like, you know.
I don't know.
So I don't know either. It's like, who named that?
I don't know.
So, but it's a beautiful plant.
It is.
It's a beautiful plant. We are on YouTube, so anybody who wants to see it, make sure that you subscribe to us on YouTube, and you will get our show and be able to see what we look like. And Julio are matching today.
Oh, look at this.
We both have our Bloomers in the Garden T-shirts, retro.
Retro.
So, but Crocosmia, it gets pretty big, and we were going to bring one in the studio, and Julio said that they were just too tall. I mean,
3 foot, 3 foot, at
3
least.
foot tall,
at least,
and that was because the flower spikes. It looks almost like the foliage of, like, say, iris.
Iris, yeah.
Iris, similar iris, and it is actually a bulb or a corm, and that it just is a great plant because it attracts those hummingbirds, and it's like the number one attractant to hummingbirds. And yes, you can do other types of plants, like there's different types of fuchsia and things like that.
Lobelia.
Yeah. But I'll tell you, the Crocosmia in the garden is a reliable performer, comes back year after year without too much work, and that's the best part.
Yeah.
The care of Crocosmia is give it light, okay? Don't overwater it. You could actually underwater it a little bit, and it would take it. And it just is easy to care for. It doesn't need to be pampered. You don't want it in like heavy clay. It has to have some drainage. But again, the flowers are what really you're buying it for. It flowers late. You're going to get it. Like it's just really flowering, starting to bud up now. Ours are a little bit ahead because we get them from the production nurseries. And man, they're beautiful.
Yeah,
Once we got our killer.
So. I think we're running out of them.
Oh, are we really?
Yes.
Well, I took 3.
Oh, did you?
Yeah, I did. I need to fix my chairs. Keep talking a little.
Oh, yeah. Well, Len just fell down a little bit here.
Anyway, so watering is not an issue. I mean, you want to keep it so you water it. It doesn't rely on your hose necessarily to keep it alive. Like if you skimp a little bit, it's going to be okay. You can tell on the foliage. If your foliage starts to go a little bit towards the yellowing side, you know that you need to give it a little bit more water, but also make sure it's not the same. That the same look comes from overwater. So just test your index finger probe, stick it in the soil, see if it's moist. And again, that Lucifer variety is like, it's a blood red, and it is been around since the 60s.
Yeah.
So it's not like they've come up with 20 different varieties like Hukara Hosta, you know.
Yeah.
So again, we feel like they skipped all the other letters in the alphabet.
Yeah, real. Now, you were saying about that one that's orangey red. Now, are they as hardy and as
they're as
robust?
hardy, but to me, they blend in with the foliage.
Oh, yeah.
And that's one thing. A great plant always has a good contrasting foliage.
Yeah.
If
with the leaves, yeah.
Yeah, that where, like if it's a yellow or that orange, you look at it, you can't really see, the flower's there and you see it because it comes off of its separate flower spike. But it's just,
It's okay.
Where the red is spectacular. Now, one thing you want to do, in that we've got a show that's coming up next week. We're going to talk about deadheading. With Crocosmia, you do want to, when that flower spike is just completely done, all the flowers have opened, and it's just basically looks like a stem, you want to follow and trace it all the way deep into the plant, and that's where you want to pinch it off, and that it helps the plant to grow, and it gets rid of having to waste energy on it. So Crocosmia, you do want to deadhead it. Is it required? No, not really. But it does make your plant look cleaner, and it makes it look a lot nicer, and then the flowers that are coming up won't be detracted from this little stick that's in the middle of your plant. So again, Crocosmia. It's mostly known by Crocosmia. There is a common name, but that's mostly, other regions in the country use a common name, and we don't. It's not that Crocosmia is what you want to ask for at your local garden center. Now would be the time. It doesn't need to be fed a lot. It's not like an annual where you've got to feed it, every 2 weeks with a water soluble fertilizer. If you're using, I would suggest to use a Spoma plant tone. and use it in the beginning of the season. And you could do it probably every 6 to 8 weeks. So that means, 3 times, maybe 4 in the growing season. What do you have them growing in your yard, Julio?
No. I saw them downtown Pittman. They have a mess of them in the middle of the town. They have a section there.
Yeah.
And
Lucifer,
yeah.
that town of yours.
Yeah, I know. Well, tell me about it.
Devil worshippers in that town.
Well,
so they have them in the middle, and so it's growing without any problem.
Yeah, it's doing well.
Yeah,
yeah. They put it with coneflowers.
Okay, and is it new planting or has it been there?
It looks like it's new. Yeah, it's new planting.
New planting, good for them. Yeah. Good to them. Being sustainable by planting perennials rather than annuals. Mm-hmm. I like that. I have mine. Actually, they are planted along. I have a porch where you know how you look at your porch and it's raised up a little bit, and that you can see the underside of the porch where you can see under it. I have them actually as almost a hedge where they're. It's only 3 or 4, on each side.
Nice.
And that where it hides the bottom of the basically it's of the porch. And that it's also because I have hanging baskets and other things, and I'm trying to get hummingbirds in. I have.
You haven't seen any yet?
I have not.
Wow.
I did put in a new hummingbird feeder, though.
Oh, you did?
I did. This hummingbird is called the Hum Yum. Hum Yum. Available at Bloomer's Home and Garden.
Oh, right.
I have never seen them before. It makes a ton of sense. Like everybody's feeding nectar, sugar,
yeah.
nectar. This has a little well, and it's like a ring where you put all those brown bananas that you have, like, your bananas start, you throw them away, you freeze them, or you put them in the Hum Yum feeder.
Whoa.
And you put the feeder farther away from your house, and fruit flies go to the bananas, and there are these little vents where it allows the fruit flies to come out, and hummingbirds use that as food because they need the zinc, they need the other nutrients that the fruit flies provide, not just nectar. And the best thing, Julio?
What's that?
It also has another tray on top of that where the nectar is. So you are feeding them both nectar and the fruit flies.
Oh, gosh, that's a great idea.
Yep. I'm gonna get hummingbirds, and they're never going to want to leave my yard.
No, they're not.
That's what's going to happen.
Wow, that's a good one.
So, I love it. It's called the Hum Yum. And again, it's available at Bloomers. I have never seen it before.
I haven't seen it.
And again, it gives a broader feeding to your hummingbirds, not just
the one,
just nectar. Here's some more sugar. And they need that, of course, but still.
When they have more, it's like a nice plate.
At the Schroeder household, we give them a full feeding.
Yes, you do.
All right. Crocosmia, do your thing.
Yes.
They're going to be flying by and they'll say, oh, look at the Crocosmia. I'm coming down for something to eat. I'm going to come to this restaurant all the time.
Yeah, this is my spot.
Do you have doing anything for the hummingbirds, by the way?
I do have a little feeder.
A little feeder?
Yeah.
Seen it yet?
Not yet.
Not yet?
I haven't seen one yet. I don't know what's going on.
Shirley said she saw them.
She saw it? Yeah.
Hey, everybody out there, if you saw a hummingbird or you have hummingbirds coming to your feeders or your plants, I want you to call the hotline and let us know.
Yeah, what are you doing?
And you have to make sure, don't forget to tell us what area you're in, because we want to know, are you calling from Connecticut? Are you calling from Delaware? Are you calling from Pennsylvania, New Jersey? We want to know where you're seeing your hummingbirds.
Yeah, and what it is, it's attracting them too.
Yeah, what are you using?
Yeah.
And again, feeder or plants? Feeder or plants?
Plants, yeah.
All right, we're going to be back in the garden right after this. Hi, this is Len Schroeder from Bloomers in the Garden. Do you have a landscape, garden, or plant question? If so, call or text us using the Bloomers in the Garden hotline. Dial 609-685-1880. That's 609-685-1880. Don't be shy. We want to hear from you. Call or text us and let us know what problems you're facing. Let us know how we're doing. Call or text 609-685-1880. If we use your comment on the air, we'll send you a free Bloomers t-shirt. Call or text us at 609-685-1880. That's 609-685-1880. And we'll see you in the garden. Coast of Maine's Organic Castine Blend Organic Raised Bed Mix is the best soil for raised bed gardens, planter boxes, and container gardens. It grows amazing vegetables. It is made with a mixture of manure compost, worm castings, lobster and kelp meal, mycorrhiza, green sand, and biochar. It's ready to use straight out of the bag with no need for additional components or tilling. If you love growing fresh and hearty vegetables, herbs, and flowers, Coast of Maine's Castine Blend Organic Raised Bed Mix is the perfect choice for you. At Coast of Maine, we believe in growing organically and buying locally. Castine Organic Raised Bed Mix can be found at these fine stores.
Pickering Valley Feed and Farm, Exton, Pennsylvania. Ashcombe Farm and Greenhouses, Mechanicsburg, Pennsylvania. Tony's Farm and Garden, Windsor, New Jersey.
Is she gone?
Nope, she's still standing there.
What is she doing?
I think she's watching the grass grow.
That's our job.
I know, right? She's watching the grass grow, the flowers grow. Ooh, look, the trees are growing.
Can't say as I blame her. Remember where she bought all this stuff?
Duh, bought us there too.
Bloomers Home and Garden Center. Find us online at bloomers.com.
You're listening to Bloomers in the Garden Radio. Listen anytime through your favorite podcast provider or hear us on the radio each weekend. Every Saturday morning, Bloomers in the Garden Radio is heard in Philadelphia and throughout the whole Delaware Valley, first at 8 a.m. on Talk 860 WWDB and again at 9 a.m. on AM 800 WTMR. On Sunday at 8 a.m., we can be heard through the New York tri-state area on Classic Oldies, 1250 a.m. WMTR. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you in the garden. Welcome back to Bloomers in the Garden. I haven't turned on my sprinkler system.
Wow, that's pretty good.
Everything's dry as no. It's not, no, it actually looks pretty good.
It does?
It looks pretty good. I did test it and I did have some work done with it, but I could turn it on, but I haven't. I haven't had to. How many trees or shrubs, Julio, have people come to return in the nursery?
Well, I know that they've had a lot of dead ones. They showed me pictures of them.
Yeah?
Yeah.
And it's all from lack of water.
Lack of water, yes.
Hanging baskets. Mm-hmm. You know, as I bought this, you know, and it's like somehow it's our fault. But what happens is that they're watering, and this is what we're going to talk about, how to water. We talk about the index finger probe, okay? Your index finger probe, you need to develop a pattern, whether it's a hanging basket, whether it's a tree, whether it's a shrub. You want to make sure that you have the right timing. I can't tell you. It's like you need to water it every day because that could be wrong because you may have it in a spot where it really doesn't dry out. Or like we have some pots that are self-watering pots. Yeah. And that the thing I don't like about them, just one brand, and it's a plastic, and it's beautiful, and it's an unbelievably pretty pot, is that there is no drainage whatsoever. And that in some of those torrential downpours that we've had recently, it fills with water, and there is no drainage hole. So it's now a water plant.
Yeah.
So, again, you need to check to see if your plants need water. And hanging baskets are the hardest. I am going to give you the bloomer's way of watering. Okay, number one, check the weight of your basket. Is it heavy? Can you reach it? If you can't reach it, I understand, but you got to figure out if it's dry and it doesn't have much weight to it, you're going to need to water it. And when a plant is in a pot, generally plastic, it could be terracotta, it could be glazed, it doesn't matter. The root ball is usually mostly peat moss, a little bit of bark fines. There's a little bit of different types of organic matter that's in there, but it shrinks. So now it pulls away from the side walls of the pot. Are you understanding me, Julio?
Yeah.
You understand it?
It's pouring it
So
in.
all of a sudden you have a gap between the side of the pot and the root. And it's basically the soil that's there. When you go to water it, it immediately goes down and finds its own level, and it finds it down into the bottom of the drainage hole, and all of a sudden it's coming out the drainage hole at the bottom, and you're thinking that, oh, it's watered. I don't need to do anything. But yet, when basically modern soil is excellent, there is no soil in it. It is a soilless mix. It's peat moss. It's all those things I said. It's peat moss, it's bark fines, it's a little bit of perlite, it's a little bit of usually it's bat guano for the stuff that Bloomers sells. The soil that Bloomers sells is quality. But when it dries out and it shrinks, it has to be rehydrated. And if you're just putting a bit of water on it and seeing it come out the bottom, you're not doing your job. You have to water it until it not only comes out the bottom, but also overflows the sides. Then you have that where it's sealing up that pot so that it can soak in more water. All right, Julio, I'm going to attest.
Testing.
Tell me what I just said.
Right. What happens is, the soil has shrunk because it's contained. The sides are now open, so you have a gap between your pot and the actual soil. And when you water this plant, the water is just going to go draining right through it, and it's not going to be watered correctly. You got to keep watering it until it comes out of the sides of the pot.
Right. Your plant's not getting any benefit of the water that you're putting on because it almost repels the water.
Yeah, it does. It's not getting enough.
Right. So another method that we use at Bloomers is we'll take a little bit of water-soluble fertilizer. So we prefer Jack's Classic, and we'd love for them to be a sponsor, wouldn't we?
Yes, we
Aaron. Yes, we would. We ask them all the time. Yeah. But Jack's Classic is from the original Peters. Those of you old-timers who remember Peters Professional, that it's Jack Peters. Anyway, so Jack's Classic, I prefer the Petunia feed, and that you mix that into a 5-gallon bucket or larger, and you take your plant, and this is when it's really dry. This is when that gap that Julio just mentioned is wide, and it just doesn't, you need to hydrate it so much because you could be standing there for 5 minutes watering the plant with the hose before it actually expands enough to seal that. What we do at Bloomers is we'll make that mixture with a little bit of water-soluble fertilizer in it, and we'll dunk the plant and basically waterboard it. We're holding the thing under the water until the bubbles stop. Yeah. So what happens is then it hydrates, and it finally gets not only the water that it needs, but also gets a shot of fertilizer, because you could damage cells that have, because it was so dry, and that this will help it to give it a kickstart to grow again and to be fuller and to really. We did this recently. We had it was all of the hibiscus. Hibiscus. When we went through that dry patch, the sprinkler system was watering them, but it hit it, but it wasn't enough to hydrate the soil, and it was the soil type that they used. They came out of Florida. It was real sandy. It didn't hold much water. And that we went and dipped each one of those using the method I just described. And my gosh, they went from being like a little chlorotic, where that means a little bit yellow, yellow-green, to where they are as dark green as you could imagine. Yeah. So they look fantastic. They're flowering incredible. But you can do these to the pots and the plants that you have, whether they're indoor plants or outdoor plants, but it has to, it's under severe conditions when things have gone really dry.
Yeah. And it can happen too when you're if you go away for a week.
Yeah, and you asked, your kids to water your plants. Oh, yeah, we got it. Yeah. I thought you said water the dog, I mean, so, if you're going away, there's some things you should probably put your plants in the shade. Don't leave them in the full sun. The only one that's going to probably walk by them is the mailman. And so what you really need to do is you need to take some precautions if you're going on vacation. There are watering methods that we have at Bloomers where they used to call it a wormy, and it basically you put a bottle that was connected to a terracotta little stake, and it used to ooze out, and that would be a long-term way. There's also another product that we have that where you sit it and it creates actually a siphon, a slow draining siphon into your plant. Those are methods. Go to your local garden center if you're going away and ask them if they have any suggestions for you. They certainly will. But if you're having to deal with watering stress on your vegetable plants, don't water at night, water in the morning, and water it heavy. You don't worry about it. But if you're doing it at night, the problem is you're going to spread disease, and that is going to be issues within your flower gardens too. All of a sudden, you've got powdery mildew issues, you have black spot, and it can be a real problem. So try to water at not at night, but in the morning. That is best. How about new landscape plants, Julio?
Oh, yes. Let me just say something about that, Len. Trees, when you buy a new tree, get yourself a tree bag, okay?
Right? A gator bag.
A gator bag, yeah. And I have is a donut, and I fill that thing up once a week. And it just drenches it out nice and slowly. And that's what that plant likes.
It'll make your life a whole lot easier.
Yeah.
And again, it oozes. Gator bags, they ooze out. And you'll see them planted on a lot of commercial jobs where there'll just be this bag on top near the trunk. And that's what it is. It's a gator bag, and it releases and oozes water like as if it was a soaker hose.
A soaker hose. That's another one you should have. A soaker hose in your garden beds. That way you can hit every shrub in that whole bed area. You don't have to worry about taking out your hose.
And if you really wanted to, you can go and you can go ahead and put it on a timer so and it goes off, every other day. But again, you're using your index finger probe, and you're sticking it in the soil to develop a pattern so that that I need to water every second day, third day. And then last but not least is watering your lawn. Water more at one time and less often.
Oh, gosh.
Disease issues are prevalent right now. We have a lot of folks coming in, and they have disease issues in their lawn. A sprinkler system that's going off 20 minutes every single day is not something that is training your grass roots to grow long and deep.
Oh, my gosh.
It's training them to grow at the surface of the soil, subject to every drought, subject to disease issues. It's not helping the grass to learn to grow a foot down. It's only going to grow in the first few inches of soil. Yeah. So you don't want that. Yeah. More water at one time and less often. 2-3 times a week, that's all I would do. If you have new seed, you're going to have to do it more often. But again, it's established lawns, more at one time, less often. And I would say the same thing for new landscape plantings. You're going to develop a pattern with your index finger probe, but more at one time and less often. It's not the volume of water that you give a plant. It's the amount, how often do you do it? So, again, we have rains during the summer that is just like it rains 3 inches, and it's the incredible rain that they just got up in Vermont. It's nuts. But it will pass. But if you got that every day, that's a problem. Yeah. That's a problem. Anything to add, Julio?
No, I think we watered everything.
That was good. All right, we'll be back in the garden with Julio, the humorist, right after this. Hi, this is Len Schroeder from Bloomers in the Garden. Do you have a landscape, garden, or plant question? If so, call or text us using the Bloomers in the Garden hotline. Dial 609-685-1880. That's 609-685-1880. Don't be shy. We want to hear from you. Call or text us and let us know what problems you're facing. Let us know how we're doing. Call or text 609-685-1880. 608-555-1880. If we use your comment on the air, we'll send you a free Bloomers t-shirt. Call or text us at 609-685-1880. That's 609-685-1880. And we'll see you in the garden. Do you think you have insects eating away your nice, beautiful lawn? Fertilum's Bug Blaster Plus Above and Below is the product for you. Fertilum's Bug Blaster Plus Above and Below not only controls chinch bugs, which is a surface-feeding insect, but also controls grubs, which is a subsurface feeding insect. It does it all, guaranteed. When most homeowners see their lawn turning brown in the summer, they think grubs. Damage from the larva, Japanese beetle. But in many cases, it could be chinch bugs. Chinch bugs are hard to see because they are so small and you'd need to get down on your hands and knees to see them. If you misdiagnose your problem, Fertilum's Bug Blaster Plus Above and Below has you covered. The product will control both chinch bugs and grubs. This summer, control your pest problems with Fertilum's Bug Blaster Plus Above and Below. It also may be used in flower beds, on landscape ornamentals, trees, and shrubs. Fertilum's Bug Blaster Plus Above and Below will also control crane fly larvae, ants, mole crickets, sod webworms, bill bugs, and many more. Your property will be pest-free with Fertilum's Bug Blaster Plus Above and Below. So next time you're visiting your favorite garden center, ask for Fertilum's Bug Blaster Plus Above and Below and expect to have the best-looking lawn and landscape in the neighborhood.
If you're like me, then you absolutely love birds. The Bird Sanctuary at Bloomer's Home and Garden Center has you covered. They're dedicated to the care and feeding of wild birds of all sorts. Want to bring more birds to your yard? Then you got to see this place. Bloomers has a huge flock of feeders, birdhouses, birdseed, and much, much more. Want to feed the birds and not the squirrels? They have this absolutely cool bronze bird feeder that will drive those sneaky squirrels nuts. They'll be moving to the next door neighbor in no time. OMG. Bloomers have these absolutely adorable birdhouses that will turn your yard into the perfect bird B&B. They carry all types of wild bird seed, suet, seed cakes, and mealworms. Bloomer stocks Lyric, Coles, CNS, Pine Tree Farms, and much, much more that will keep those beautiful birds coming back for more. Bloomer's Home and Garden Center is located in Washington Township in Gloucester County. For more information and directions, check them out on the web at bloomers.com. Bloomer's Home and Garden Center, you got to see this place.
You're listening to Bloomers in the Garden Radio. Listen anytime through your favorite podcast provider or hear us on the radio each weekend. Every Saturday morning, Bloomers in the Garden Radio is heard in Philadelphia and throughout the whole Delaware Valley, first at 8 a.m. on Talk 860 WWDB and again at 9 a.m. on AM 800 WTMR. On Sunday at 8 a.m., we can be heard through the New York tri-state area on Classic Oldies, 1250 AM WMTR. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you in the garden.
Welcome back to Bloomers in the Garden. If you're thinking about building a pond, there are a couple of things you must understand.
Right?
Yeah.
All right. First, it's a pond. It's not a pool. Okay? It's a pond, not a pool. So it's not going to be pristine clear. You know, it's not going to be, the water will be clear. But the sidewalls are going to be filled with a little bit of coated algae, and it's not going to be that Polynesian fantasy that's like in Las Vegas somewhere. It's going to be just a waterfall, and it's going to be a natural occurring thing in nature, and that's what you're trying to copy. You're trying to copy something from nature, not from man-made, again, like I said, Niagara Falls or some crazy, great big, waterfall, and people get disappointed with my pond is green, but their pond isn't really green. And the segment coming up, we're going to talk about when your pond is really green. If it's along the edge, that's a pond. It's what they do. It's what the fish and the wildlife feed off of, and it's going to be okay. So don't worry about having green sides. Also, don't do a small pond.
Yeah. Oh, no.
A smaller pond is like taking care of a puddle.
Oh.
You can't do it. Get a larger pond because, for one, after you're done and you have your pond for a month or so, you're going to think, I should have made it bigger.
Yeah.
I should have made it bigger. You know, those little things that are like, you know, maybe 4 by 6 and they're like this little tiny thing. Every time it rains, all of your water levels change. And I'm talking about ammonia and your pH and everything else, because there is such a thing as acid rain. John Kerry. John Kerry walks into a bar, right? Bartender says, hey, John, why the long face? Oh. Anyway, so the pond is going to be subject to the water that you get from rain. And like in our area where it's coming from Philadelphia or it's coming from New York, that's going to be an issue. So again, bigger is better. Don't be afraid of shade. Shade will protect your pond from the sun that is going to feed algae. And it's going to be better. Your water will actually be clearer if you keep it in the shade. You're going to have to decide on some plants. You may have to, you'll have your palette selection of plants will be a little bit reduced, but you won't have the issue with algae. How about equipment?
Oh, don't skimp on that. You got to really, buy the best.
Right. And make sure you're buying, don't say, oh, I don't want a UV. No, you do want to.
You do. Yeah.
Ultraviolet sterilizer is what we're talking about. And what that does is it helps your water to be free of that floating algae that we keep talking about. And we're going to address this in the next segment, so you don't have to necessarily write it down just yet. And don't get an undersized pump.
Oh, gosh.
We'll try to create the Polynesian, fantasy. But the issue is really if you have a small pump and it's working, because it does things where it draws your filter, it draws the filter, the water in through your filter. So if you go in the first day, it's like, oh, it's perfect. A month from now, it's going to have debris in the pads and you're going to have to clean it. And there is maintenance. So if you get an undersized pump, you're going to be disappointed in a hurry. So most important is understanding the nitrogen cycle. We're going to try to basically make it real simple, okay? A filter for your pond is not necessarily to make it clean. It's to make it safe for fish, okay? Fish, there's that book. You have kids, Aaron. That book, Everybody Poops, okay? Fish poop a lot. And that when people feed them a lot, they poop a lot. And what happens is that puts fish waste, but also rotting leaves. You have things that drop into the water, and that stuff decomposes. And as it decomposes, it turns to ammonia. Now, what happens is that your filter is not straining the water. It's colonizing bacteria. So as the ammonia water, okay, we're going to just call it that for now, goes through the filter, which ammonia is toxic to fish, and I'm sure it's not good for plants either, that it changes it to nitrate, which is safe for fish. But you know what? Nitrate? Aaron's bored. Aaron, NPK, right? Have you learned what that is yet? Nitrogen, phosphorus, potassium?
I mean, I'm
You've heard that,
with
right? We've talked about
from
it.
The table of elements.
Nitrate is that first N.
Right.
Okay, the first number on a bag of fertilizer.
Gotcha.
When you go and you use your filter and that you have a pond,
okay,
and that your filter is going to change it into a safe form, nitrate, which are safe for fish and plants, but it's like Miracle-Gro coming out here. It's like a water-soluble fertilizing machine.
Gotcha.
For algae. And that you have to make sure that you are basically feeding your fish in a way that you're producing the least amount of waste possible, because you don't want to have algae issues. It's the circle of life, Lion King, the circle of life.
Sure.
And that's what you need to do. And it's called the nitrogen cycle. And you need to understand that before you ever think about making a pond. Anything else, Julio?
No, not on that. Ammonia is really deadly for those.
It is.
If you can have fish.
And any of you that have fish, if you see your fish gasping at the top for air, that is an ammonia issue. You need to address it immediately. 20% water change. Look, it is important to do things right when you start, not try to fix them after it's done. All right, we'll be back in the pond right after this to talk about algae. Be right back in the garden. Hi, this is Len Schroeder from Bloomers in the Garden. Do you have a landscape, garden, or plant question? If so, call or text us using the Bloomers in the Garden hotline. Dial 609-685-1880. That's 609-685-1880. Don't be shy. We want to hear from you. Call or text us and let us know what problems you're facing. Let us know how we're doing. Call or text 609-685-1880. If we use your comment on the air, we'll send you a free Bloomers t-shirt. Call or text us at 609-685-1880. That's 609-685-1880. And we'll see you in the garden.
Dreaming of a gorgeous garden? Give your azaleas, rhododendron, blueberries, and evergreens a powerful boost with the #1 acid-loving plant food, Espoma Organic Hollytone. Hollytone is a perfect blend of natural, long-lasting ingredients that nourish plants for stronger roots, faster growth, and bountiful blooms. Plus, it's easy to use and safe for people, pets, and planet. Visit Espoma.com for a retailer near you and helpful gardening tips. Espoma, a natural in the garden since 1929.
You're listening to Bloomers in the Garden Radio. Listen anytime through your favorite podcast provider or hear us on the radio each weekend. Every Saturday morning, Bloomers in the Garden Radio is heard in Philadelphia and throughout the whole Delaware Valley, first at 8 a.m. on Talk 860 WWDB and again at 9 a.m. on AM 800 WTMR. On Sunday at 8 a.m., we can be heard through the New York tri-state area on Classic Oldies, 1250 a.m. WMTR. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you in the garden. Julio Zamora.
Hey,
Hold on to your seat because we're going to fly through this segment on algae. Anybody who has a pond has dealt with algae at one point or another, and it's either the free-floating algae that makes your pond look like basically pea soup, and there's the string algae, which attaches itself to rocks. We're going to basically start with free-floating algae. Algae thrives in full sun. The nitrate that's coming out of your filter is feeding it. So you want to have plants in your pond so that it can compete with the algae. Now, there are products you can use. Algae Fix, again, that's Aquarium Pharmaceutical. They do a great job. Algae Fix is the one product I would use. It will kill the free-floating algae. It will not control string algae. We have another method for that. But the pea soup green that you see, that Algae Fix from Aquarium Pharmaceutical will take care of that. You have to read the instructions and follow the instructions. Now, you also have to use AccuClear. AccuClear is also by Aquarium Pharmaceutical. You'll see on the bottle it says API or Pond Care. And what AccuClear does, it's a coagulant. So all those free-floating pieces of dead algae are still free-floating, and instead of being green, it's on the brown side. So what you want is all of that to disappear and your water to be clear. So what it does is it gets those particles all together, and it's a flocculant. So it just like in a pool, where it grabs those pieces and then it drops down to the bottom of your pond, and then your water's perfectly clear. Now, string algae is the thing that looks like hair, and it's usually on waterfalls or on stones, and it attaches itself. That has to be physically scrubbed off or taken off. Aaron and I were talking about that, and Aaron and I said about have you ever taken your battery and cleaned your battery with baking soda, and that kind of foams up, but it cleans the terminals really great. The product that you use is Aquascape EcoBlast, and it's a granular algicide, and that's basically what it does, is it will get rid of all of that algae. Now, you can power wash it, and I'm not talking with a hose. I'm talking with a real power washer. You can get that off, but you still need to remove it. The best thing to use is the Aquascape EcoBlast, And it's a contact granular algicide, and it will get rid of that string algae in waterfalls and fountain streams and even on rocks. It just gets rid of it on contact. It's simple. You just treat it directly on the affected area, and the algae will just disappear. Now, that string algae, you're going to have it floating around your pond. Now you have to turn off your pump and everything because you need to get it right on the algae. You can't do it in running water. So you have to get it. Maybe you need to lower your pump level by doing a water change, take some of that water out so you can get to it. But again, it's the EcoBlast Contact Granular Algicide. That's it. Algae problems are solved.
There you go.
If you've got questions about any of your water gardens, algae, fish, you give us a call on the hotline. We'll be right back in the garden right after this. Hi, this is Len Schroeder from Bloomers in the Garden. Do you have a landscape, garden, or plant question? If so, call or text us using the Bloomers in the Garden hotline. Dial 609-685-1880. That's 609-685-1880. Don't be shy. We want to hear from you. Call or text us and let us know what problems you're facing. Let us know how we're doing. Call or text 609-685-1880. If we use your comment on the air, we'll send you a free Bloomers t-shirt. Call or text us at 609-685-1880. That's 609-685-1880. And we'll see you in the garden. You know, some of our most frequent questions revolve around organic container gardening for houseplants, annuals, and of course, vegetables. Coast of Maine's Bar Harbor Blend Organic Potting Soil is a lightweight soil mixture made with salmon, blueberry, lobster, and other composts, as well as calcium and chitin-rich lobster shells, sphagnum peat, perlite, and kelp meal. It is a great soil. And Coast of Maine's Bar Harbor Organic Potting Soil is rich in organic material, creating lush, disease-resistant plants that require less watering, less feeding. Its rich, dark brown color provides the perfect balance between water retention and drainage needed for healthy plants. Coast of Maine's Bar Harbor Blend Organic Potting Soil is available at these local retailers.
Sickles Market, Little River, New Jersey. Espen Shades Garden Centers and Greenhouse, Fleetwood, Pennsylvania. Pickering Valley Feed and Farm, Exton, Pennsylvania.
Wanting to up your game in the vegetable garden? With 90 years of organic gardening experience, the Espoma Company has you covered. Espoma Organic Garden Tone is not your average garden variety fertilizer. Garden Tone is especially blended for organic vegetable gardens. Its all-natural formula contains Biotone, a blend of organic ingredients that supplies essential nutrients for strong, healthy plants and mouth-watering vegetables. Its slow-release formula provides continuous feeding. The Biotone contained in Garden Tone is a combination of organic ingredients and beneficial microbes to help roots grow deeper and faster for bigger, more bountiful harvests. Garden Tone is simple to use and safe for people, pets, and the planet. No harmful chemicals or synthetic fertilizers are ever added. You can find Garden Tone at fine garden centers. Visit espoma.com to find a retailer near you. Garden Tone from Espoma, a natural in the garden since 1929. You're listening to Bloomers in the Garden Radio. Listen anytime through your favorite podcast provider or hear us on the radio each weekend. Every Saturday morning, Bloomers in the Garden Radio is heard in Philadelphia and throughout the whole Delaware Valley, first at 8 a.m. on Talk 860 WWDB, and again at 9 a.m. on AM 800 WTMR. On Sunday at 8 a.m., we can be heard through the New York tri-state area on Classic Oldies, 1250 a.m. WMTR. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you in the garden.
Welcome back to Bloomers in the Garden. What's bugging you? Yes, sir. It's that spotted lanternfly still around.
They are. And like, if you think back, do you remember those ones that were back in the fall? That again, they had wings and that they were spotted white, and they're kind of pretty. You know, we jokingly called it lingerie, but those are dead.
Yeah, they're done.
They lay eggs, and it's a brand new generation that has started. And I had one on my car the other day, and I looked by my mirror, and that's
He's still there.
yeah, still there, riding along. And that's one of the reasons that they have quarantine zones. They want people to check their vehicles and especially commercial.
Crossing over.
So, but again, those adults, I mean, it's funny. Have you ever seen Toy Story, Julio?
No.
You have not. We need to take. We need to take Julio and like sit him down and like have a movie night where there's so many movies you need to see. Anyway, so in Toy Story and spotted lanternfly don't fly. They're not a fly. They don't fly. They don't fly. And the scene from Toy Story actually says it better than I can.
He doesn't fight evil or shoot lasers or fly. He can't fly.
I can fly.
No, you can't.
Yes, I can.
You can't. Can't.
Thank you.
That wasn't flying. That was falling with style.
There you go. They hop with style. They don't fly. They don't fly. They don't fly. So they hop with style. And I'll tell you what, they've hopped all over the East Coast. I mean, it's amazing how far they've hopped, but they don't fly because they're a leaf hopper. Now, what does that mean to you? That means that it's time right now with that hitchhiker on my car, you have them that they're going to start thinking about breeding, and then they're going to start thinking about laying eggs, and you have to start getting ready for this. It's time to put some sticky fly tape around your trees, and Bonide has this really wide, it's like a 6 to 8 inch wide tape that can be put around your tree, and it will stop them from going up, because what happens is that when the eggs hatch, they go down towards the ground, and some people have found them on their tomatoes. Grape growers are terrified because these things will eat grapes. It's a major problem for the agricultural community, and that we need to do our part to stop it. So again, wrap with sticky tape and do that now, because you're going to catch these little guys, and that you're going to catch the adults later. It's important to do. If you see them, you can spray them. There's different types of sprays. Any of the thrins will work, like the pyrethrin or the deltamethrin, or any of the thrins will work. You want to, if you have a tree of heaven, you want to cut it down. It looks like sumac. It is there. When they're adults, you'll find them clustered up and down the trunk of these things. It's like candy for them. But now is the start to getting them under control. Both an organic way is by using spinosad. Spinosad is something that we've been pushing it as Captain Jack's for years, but Captain Jack's Bonide has really messed up the branding. So look for spinosad, and it's spelt just like it said, spinosad, and that it's available by Bonide, but it's also available from other companies as well. That will control it. Malathion will control it. They're finding that there's a lot of other insecticides that will control it. But again, as long as you can still get imidacloprid, you're going to use that at night. Okay, and that's a systemic, and it's not a spray where you put it on the plant's root system and it makes the plant poisonous to the insect. You're going to use on anything that's non-edible. You could do that with. It's time to act. They are out there. So make sure that you go and do your part, because they're spreading. They originally were started in Pennsylvania and I think it was Montgomery County. And that now it is spread. I know that it's up into New England now, and I know that it's heading west. But we need to do our part. That these are invaded. That they came in as eggs, and wow, they are just everywhere. They're everywhere. So if you're looking for them now, the way that they look is they're a black insect. It looks about the size of a tick or a spider, and it has white spots on it. And it could be in that stage where it's transitioning to being red, where it's red, black with white spots. Okay. The one that I saw in my car was black with the white spots.
Black.
Did you see any red?
No, I haven't seen red yet.
You haven't seen red stage yet? Sandy said she did.
Oh,
so
she did.
so we're right in between
Transition.
those two stages where it could be black with white spots or red with white spots, and it's more of like a rusty colored red, not a bright red.
Yeah.
So if you've got questions about spotted lanternfly or any insect, what's that
Call
number?
us, 609-685-1880.
Say it again.
609-685-1880.
That's a Bloomers in the Garden hotline, and we will get back to you. And just leave your question, and we'll call you. We'll be right back in the garden right after this. Hi, this is Len Schroeder from Bloomers in the Garden. Do you have a landscape, garden, or plant question? If so, call or text us using the Bloomers in the Garden hotline. Dial 609-685-1880. That's 609-685-1880. Don't be shy. We want to hear from you. Call or text us and let us know what problems you're facing. Let us know how we're doing. Call or text 609-685-1880. If we use your comment on the air, we'll send you a free Bloomers t-shirt. Call or text us at 609-685-1880. That's 609-685-1880. And we'll see you in the garden.
Bloomers in the Garden is brought to you each week by Bloomers Home and Garden Center. Bloomers is an award-winning garden center just 20 minutes from Philadelphia. Bloomers has been providing expert advice turning brown thumbs green for over 30 years. At Bloomers, we want you to ask us every question, even if you think it's silly. We share information in a friendly, non-judgmental way that is meant to teach and spread the joy of gardening. Visit Bloomers Home and Garden Center in Washington Township, Gloucester County. For directions, go to bloomers.com, and we'll see you in the garden.
You're listening to Bloomers in the Garden Radio. Listen anytime through your favorite podcast provider or hear us on the radio each weekend. Every Saturday morning, Bloomers in the Garden Radio is heard in Philadelphia and throughout the whole Delaware Valley, first at 8 a.m. on Talk 860 WWDB and again at 9 a.m. on AM 800 WTMR. On Sunday at 8 a.m., we can be heard through the New York tri-state area on Classic Oldies, 1250 a.m. WMTR. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you in the garden. Well, Julio,
I'll tell you what.
do you want to start a pond?
Oh, yes.
Good.
You better believe it.
Good. Just start it right. Just start
That's
it
great.
right.
Yeah, watering. Oh, boy, I tell you what. We told you everything on how to water correctly and how to do it.
Index finger probe.
That's right. So you're going to be successful out there this summer, right?
And water those hanging baskets so that they are watered all the way through to the top.
That's right.
All the way through the top.
Wonderful.
Hey, don't forget to call the hotline with questions at 609-685-1880. You'll leave us the question, and then we will call you back with the answer. And if we use it on the air, you get a T-shirt.
Oh, look at that. Oh, just like Len and I are wearing.
Yeah. All right. We'll see you next week right here in the garden.
See you in the garden.